It began with a letter, stark and official, slipped into the mailbox of Mrs. Evelyn Carter, a black woman in her late 50s with silver-streaked braids and eyes that had weathered decades of struggle and triumph. Her garden, a tapestry of sunflowers, collard greens, tomatoes, and herbs, had always been more than decoration. It fed neighbors, inspired children, and brought beauty to the quiet suburb she had helped build. But to the HOA, it was a crime. They labeled it non-compliance, slapped a $500 fine on her, and demanded the entire garden be removed within 30 days. Evelyn held the letter on her porch, her hands trembling not with fear, but with a mix of hurt and disbelief. She had nurtured this garden as she had her own children, through storms and droughts, and now it was deemed a nuisance. The HOA president, Richard Wallace, was a man who wielded authority like armor, his crisp suit and smug smile a mask for the power he relished. When Evelyn called to question why her garden had been singled out while neighbors flaunted fountains, flamingos, and ornaments without consequence, Richard's response was cold, deliberate, dismissive, because those are within regulation, and your little farm isn't. If you can't follow the rules, maybe this community isn't the right fit for you. He thought he had one, that she would shrink under his words. But Evelyn held a secret he did not. She was not just a homeowner. She was the elected mayor of the town. Evelyn did not reveal her identity immediately. Silence can be sharper than any sword. At the next HOA meeting, she entered with head held high, simple dress, steady voice. Richard smirked, mocking, "Here to appeal your fine." Evelyn met his gaze, calm and unwavering. "I'm here to see how this board justifies punishing a woman for feeding her community." He lectured about property values, appearances, and respectability, expecting applause. But Evelyn pulled a folder from her bag, sliding it across the table. The room fell silent as the official town seal and documents she had signed protecting sustainable gardening and community food sharing were revealed. Richard's smirk faded, his authority crumbled in real time. "Not only is my garden legal, it's protected under town ordinance," Evelyn said, voice cutting through the tension. Gasps rippled, whispers rose, and the board sat frozen. By the end of the meeting, Evelyn had turned the tide. Neighbors applauded, approached with gratitude and admiration. The bully had been dethroned, her dignity untouchable, her garden safe. But peace was fleeting. That night, another envelope arrived, not HOA letterhead, just a typed message: "Enjoy your victory, Mayor Carter, but you've embarrassed the wrong people, and soon your garden will be the least of your worries." Outside, a black SUV idled, windows dark, watching. Evelyn knew this was bigger than Richard, bigger than the HOA. The next morning, Evelyn began her counterattack. At City Hall, she ordered her assistant to pull 10 years of zoning records for Maplewood Estates. Within hours, the truth emerged: Richard Wallace, the smug HOA president, was also a partner in a development scheme aimed at displacing families, turning their homes into luxury condos and boutiques. Her garden was only an excuse, intimidation was the strategy, greed the motive. That night, Evelyn called a community meeting, revealing the documents, rallying neighbors, and igniting a collective resolve. Richard seethed, threats flaring, but Evelyn stood firm. Weeks of harassment followed, spray-painted fences, vandalized plants, sudden fines, but the community grew stronger, united under Evelyn's leadership. When her home was ransacked and a chilling note left behind, she contacted a trusted journalist, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. At the next HOA meeting, Richard slid a manila envelope across the table, his grin dark. "Open it, Evelyn, and see who your real enemy is." Evelyn's hands hovered over it, steady, her heart racing. She knew whatever lay inside could change everything. And as she reached forward, the audience is left holding its breath, the storm far from over. Evelyn Carter's fingers hovered over the manila envelope, her eyes locked on Richard Wallace, who sat across from her with a smug grin that no longer hid the twitch of anxiety in his jaw. The room was silent, neighbors leaning forward, breaths held. Evelyn knew this moment wasn't just about her garden anymore, it was about exposing the entire web of greed, corruption, and intimidation Richard had spun, thinking he could crush a community and get away with it. Slowly, deliberately, she opened the envelope. Inside were documents, contracts, emails, wire transfers, all linking Richard directly to a network of developers, lobbyists, and even a shadowy local investment group aiming to seize Maplewood Estates block by block. But the final page was the dagger, signatures from multiple city officials, each attempting to obscure their involvement, but clearly tied to Richard's schemes. The room erupted in gasps, murmurs rippling like wildfire. Evelyn looked up, voice calm but charged with authority. "This," she said, tapping the papers, "is why my garden became a target. This is why my neighbors received fines for nothing. This is why some of you felt powerless. But no longer." Richard's eyes darted nervously. He tried to recover, raising his voice, "You can't just, these documents, this is, fraudulent." But Evelyn cut him off, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "No, Richard. These are legal records. These are emails you sent, contracts you signed. Every lie, every intimidation, every threat you've made is on paper, and now the entire community, the state, and the press have them." She turned to the neighbors, her voice ringing with pride and authority. "This is why unity matters. This is why standing together matters. They tried to break us one garden, one house, one family at a time. But what they forgot is that when we rise together, greed and intimidation crumble before us." Applause erupted, some neighbors standing, others crying, a collective roar of justice that filled the room. Richard tried one last move, sliding a phone across the table. "If you publish this, Mayor Carter, these people will destroy your reputation, your career." Evelyn shook her head, a small smile on her lips. "Reputation? Richard, the truth doesn't destroy, lies do. And the truth is here. You will answer for this." At that moment, Carla stepped forward, holding a recorder and streaming the entire confrontation live to the local news outlet. Cameras flashed, live feeds rolling, as Evelyn continued to dismantle Richard's lies one by one. The HOA board members shifted uncomfortably, their power evaporating, their complicity exposed. Richard's face drained of color, his authority shattered in front of neighbors, press, and the world. By the end of the evening, the HOA had been dissolved, investigations were underway, and multiple city officials implicated in Richard's scheme were suspended pending review. Evelyn walked out of the meeting, head high, the community gathering behind her, cheering, some wiping tears, some hugging one another. Her garden, once the symbol of a minor crime, now stood as a monument to resilience, unity, and justice. Richard Wallace was escorted out, his threats meaningless, the power he wielded reduced to paper scraps and empty words. Evelyn's phone buzzed with messages from neighbors, journalists, and city leaders, all praising her courage and leadership. She looked over her community, children laughing in her sunflowers, families smiling, neighbors holding hands, and whispered softly, "This was never just about me. This was about all of us. And justice will always find its way when we refuse to be silent." The sun dipped low, casting golden light over her thriving garden, a beacon of hope, strength, and defiance. Evelyn Carter, underestimated, dismissed, and challenged, had not just saved her garden, she had saved her neighborhood, her neighbors, and the spirit of a community that refused to bow to greed. And as the black SUV that had haunted her for weeks drove off into the distance, she knew the fight had ended, the tables had turned, and justice had been served.